Welcome to another episode of Fintech Confidential. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Lynn Dufrane, the Executive Director of Sales over here at CheckAlt.
Having sat on the side of a traditional banker's desk is really beneficial when you're talking to financial institutions. Being in the payment space and around innovators and Fintechs is beneficial in understanding that side of the business. There was this moment of, is this the next big threat in banking? And I think what we're finding out is, I think it's the next great partnership. People may be shocked, but last year, business customers wrote more checks in 2023 than they did in 2022. So checks aren't going anywhere. When you're going after new business, whether you're going to enter the market and search for a new vertical, maybe you've never done business in the healthcare space. I'm personally a big fan of the healthcare space. I think every financial institution should look at the healthcare space. I think Fintechs, that's a great space. I didn't realize this, but the number one thing apparently for financial institutions that they'll talk about this year is check fraud. I hope financial institutions move away from thinking Fintechs are threats and really move into this. We have to partner with these financial technology companies. I think it's 116 billion payments were processed by CheckAlt. I didn't realize there were that many checks still being written. I'm just being honest.
Welcome to Fintech Confidential, bringing you the people, tech, and companies that change how you pay and get paid.
Welcome to another episode of Fintech Confidential. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Lynn Dufrane, the Executive Director of Sales over here at CheckAlt. And today we're going to dive into what it really looks like to work with partnerships and really understand how CheckAlt is solving a lot of these problems around Lockbox and some other features. Well, Lynn, I'm glad to finally have you on.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. It's a privilege to be here.
Yeah. So we always dive in originally to really talk about how you fell into this wonderful world we call Fintech. Kind of give us how you first got in and then do a quick fast forward to how you got to where you're at today.
Now let's quickly shine a spotlight on a game changer in the financial world, ClearingWorks. Simplify your financial management with a one-stop solution for all your AR needs and with a single login. Are you intrigued? Visit clearingworks.com to schedule your demo today.
Probably an untraditional path for Fintech because I started a small community bank, I think in 1987, as a teller, as everyone in financial services probably should start as a teller, and worked my way up very quickly. And I moved over to the payments side, I think it was like the early 90s, and I literally fell in love with payments. The movement of money to me was fascinating, and it was one of those groups that just constantly evolved. And so every day you learn something new. And I'm just really curious by nature, so it was such a great fit. And so payments has just always kind of been my passion. And I've been very blessed to work for a lot of great organizations, and CheckAlt is at the top of my list.
Well, that's where you landed now. You started at the community bank. You've made a couple steps through there to some well-known brands.
Yeah.
What are you bringing from those experiences into that as you come over to CheckAlt? What is the biggest piece that you feel like you're bringing along with you?
Yeah, I think it's a comprehensive understanding of the industry. And I think having sat on the side of a traditional banker's desk is really beneficial when you're talking to financial institutions. And I think being in the payment space and around innovators and Fintechs is beneficial in understanding that side of the business. And so I think what I bring is kind of a more collaborative approach to bringing the two together. Because I think initially when Fintechs kind of made their splash into financial services, I think there was this moment of, is this the next big threat in banking? And I think what we're finding out is, I think it's the next great partnership in financial services. And I think the really smart institutions understand that. And I think what we try to do at CheckAlt is bring that innovation together in an industry, check processing, that's probably seen as more of a traditional, not real technologically advanced processing of paper checks. But there's also this perception, I believe, that folks believe checks are going away, and they probably have for a decade. And the truth is, they're not. In fact, people may be shocked, but last year, business customers wrote more checks in 2023 than they did in 2022. So checks aren't going anywhere. CheckAlt is innovating to stay ahead of check processing. And I think really the way Fintechs and financial services come together will be the pivotal moment as we move forward in this industry.
So it's kind of surprising to me. I mean, I can think back as long as I've pretty much been in the industry. It's every year it feels like it's the death of checks.
Yeah.
It's the death of checks. It
Yeah.
feels like every year that comes along. I think it's been more of a transition or a conversion that's really happened. I don't think there's fewer checks. I just think that the way that they're being created, accepted,
Sure.
converted, and then transmitted have all made some major changes. And when you look at all those different things, how do you see the vision and the mission of CheckAlt really delivering that to the market?
Yeah, I think I actually agree with you that I was probably in that boat thinking, well, checks are going away. And then as I immersed myself in this industry, realizing statistically that's just inaccurate. And I think the one thing CheckAlt does is understand there's a need to process physical paper checks. And that need is not going to go away. And so if you stop innovating in that space, there's going to be a gap at somewhere down the road. We're still innovating, which is a good thing. We're looking at ways to turn paper checks into ACH, for example. So I think the greatest misconception is a lot of us use an online bill pay system with our financial institution. I'm a huge fan of bill pay. And I've known for years, because I'm in this industry, that certain people I pay, I know there's a physical check going because I can see that the time it's supposed to arrive can be weeks after I have input the actual check. And what CheckAlt does with one of our offerings is we take that physical bill pay check and we catch it at the moment it's being issued, and we convert it to an ACH. So now we've eliminated the postal system. We've sped up the time that payment is being received by the payee, and also the credit that the consumer gets for paying that bill in a more timely way. So I think those are the things that we try to innovate. But again, I do believe paper checks are here to stay for a while. My mom's 81 years old, and I can assure you, not only does she write a check constantly, she balances her checkbook every month religiously. So that's how old school my mom is. Now, my children, I don't know. I'm hoping they know how to write a check, but I'm not sure they do. That's the generation of P2P payments and everything's instant. And so what we have to do at CheckAlt and really across the financial services industry is really figure out how to serve both spectrums, right? We still need to serve my 81-year-old mom because she's going to be part of the financial services ecosystem, but also need to look at my children from a digital forward perspective because they are going to change the ecosystem over the next several decades.
Well, you mentioned the Lockbox function.
Yeah.
Lockbox has been around a really long time, right? And, I still remember the first time that I had to use one. I was paying my first utility bill.
Sure.
And I had to write the check, and I had to put it in the envelope and then mail it. And
right.
Cross my fingers that it got there in time so that they didn't turn off my electricity. But
Yes.
But when you look at that, what are some of the opportunities that you're seeing for financial institutions, maybe some non-financial institutions as well, looking at these types of products like you'd mentioned that catch it before it gets mailed out and converts to ACH? What are the kinds of opportunities that you're seeing there? And can you give us an example of one?
Sure. I think financial services in generally are having maybe an aha moment. And it's really not even related to check processing or digital offerings. It's more related to the talent shortage that is everywhere, but certainly in the financial services industry. So if you are an institution that was doing, say, lockbox processing yourself for your clients, I think there's becoming a need now to look at where do we outsource that? Because we should redeploy our own associates to go out and do revenue enhancing things, or redeploy them for an area where we have a gap and we don't have people. So I think that's one thing that is, it may not be, super digital first in thinking, but it's relevant in that it's a way for you to enhance your business into the next generation, right? And I think examples of that is we just hosted a large institution here in Miami at our event. And originally they came to me with the need of, they were going to acquire our software. They have a big Lockbox processing facility in-house. And when I talked to their president as we walked around, I said, help me understand, because I've heard your team make different comments. Are you all still thinking of ingesting the software and doing it? And he said, no, we're doing a pivot. We'd like to outsource. It makes sense. And I'm certain they've done this for generations. And it's made sense to outsource and allow their team to do other things. So I think that's kind of an example of where maybe it's not product forward in what they're thinking, but more product shifting. I think that CheckAlt is constantly innovating, whether it be the online portal that allows that biller to go and pay their bill either by card, debit, or credit, or have a direct ACH out of their checking or savings account. Whether it be the traditional paper lockbox where people are opening the envelope, scan what you went through with your utility bill, somebody opened it, they scanned it, they created a file and they got it deposited, or it's where we intercept that bill paycheck. So I think those are more like comprehensive offerings. And maybe decades ago, people thought about one thing. And maybe the innovation is that you have to be holistic when you're solving things for clients, right? Or when you're going after new business, whether you're going to enter the market and search for a new vertical. Maybe you've never done business in the healthcare space. I'm personally a big fan of the healthcare space. I think every financial institution should look at the healthcare space. I think Fintechs, that's a great space. The truth is, and I'm one of those people, as we age, we need doctors. And young people seem to be a little bit more forward thinking in being proactive in visiting a doctor versus waiting until, there's something wrong. So I think there's great opportunity for businesses, for financial institutions as we move forward.
Can you help me understand where the opportunity lies? I mean, we've talked about the financial institution, organizations that are sending and or receiving the lockbox for payments. One of the things that I've noticed is talking to the CEO, Shai, a lot of times is that there are a lot of partnerships that feel untraditional. Can you help me understand how you're looking at partnerships beyond the traditional route of financial institutions?
Absolutely. So I think a great example is, I didn't realize this, but the number one thing apparently for financial institutions that they'll talk about this year is check fraud. I heard it from an association, a very large association. What can CheckAlt do about check fraud? And so that I thought, well, that's an interesting question. And so as we've talked to various Fintechs and trying to develop partnerships, I met someone who basically started a Fintech that monitors checks being sold on the dark web. And it was fascinating, the data that he had built. He had a background in Secret Service, so we're talking, first class team that he's put together. And it's something like 20 years ago, that stuff didn't happen. And many financial services institutions are very traditional in nature. And so I think the partnerships that we're trying to build is to fill gaps that we hear when we're talking to our clients. And yesterday someone asked, well, what's the differentiator between CheckAlt and everybody else who does what you do? And it's one of those things when you ask an institution, what's the differentiator between your checking account and somebody else's? It's a checking account. It moves money and we process checks. But the differentiator is we're constantly looking to partner with Fintechs. Shai Stern, our CEO, has an unbelievable network with these Fintechs and just with really entrepreneurial type spirits. And that's what we need to do to push forward and move forward. And so I'm really focused on where can we leverage these partnerships to bring more value to our clients. And yesterday's presentations, the Miami conference, met an enormous amount of thought knowledge and just super interesting ideas. And I think that's why I say what I originally said is...
Here's a quick message from the Accrued Series sponsor. As default rates continue to rise and margins compress in lending, financial organizations are searching for solutions to combine that operational efficiency with innovation. Look no further, as LoanPro allows lenders to enhance their origination, servicing, collections, and payments using the foundation of a modern lending core. Check out loanpro.io to learn more about how over 600 financial organizations have modernized their tech stack with LoanPro.
I hope financial institutions move away from thinking fintechs are threats and really move into this. We have to partner with these financial technology companies because they think of things that traditionally we haven't thought of. And if we can marry those two together, it's a better experience for our consumers. And at the end of the day, we're all here to serve clients.
As we're recording this, you're relatively new with CheckAlt.
Yes.
What was the biggest surprise that you found after joining the company, and how did that change your perception of the overarching industry?
The biggest surprise was, I think it's 116 billion payments were processed by CheckAlt. I didn't realize there were that many checks still being written. I'm just being honest. So my biggest surprise was how large this industry still is. I think the other big surprise was how innovative this company is, because traditionally when you say the word paper check, the next word typically is not innovation. Yet I think CheckAlt, and especially Shai and the executive leadership team, have done a great job of breaking the mold of saying, we process checks, and we're very proud of that. We process checks, but we process checks and then. So I think that's what was really eye-opening for me.
Lynn, as we're looking at all of these different things and the innovation that goes on at CheckAlt, especially around something that is typically looked at as super legacy, and paper checks,
right?
Paper, ink, printed, processed. When you look at the fintech founders and or new people in the financial services arena of fintech, if you were able to give them just one piece of advice, one piece that they could take with them forever and they would never forget, what would that be and why?
My advice would be to be open to collaboration and not to think that there's only one way to skin the cat, to say it's that way. The more that I have seen the fintechs and then the other side of it, whether it be the corporation or the financial institution, there is such a great opportunity. And some of those opportunities come by sitting down and just having conversations. And that happened at dinner the other night as we were talking about an idea, which originally I thought was going to go down one path. And then I was talking to a banker and they brought something up that I never thought about because, I don't spend time in that space anymore like I used to. And I thought, okay, we need to pivot. I think the ability to pivot, which I've always felt the ability to pivot is critical to those that are incredibly successful versus those who are just successful. If you can pivot and you pivot well, I think that is the key to long-term success. So that would be my advice, is collaborate and be willing to pivot.
So you mentioned the collaboration makes a ton of sense. I mean, the broader you make your circle, the more things you learn about, the better your perspective grows and gives you different insights. The piece that I find interesting is, you're not the first person that said be able to pivot. But what I'd like to understand from your perspective is, how do you know when to pivot?
Yeah.
How do you know that that's the way you need to pivot from your perspective?
Support provided by Skyflow. What if you could build fast but not break privacy? What if you could ensure data privacy governance, and compliance with just a few API calls? What if you could worry less about PCI requirements while actually improving privacy and security? How much more time would your team have to truly innovate? How much faster could you build and ship new features? How much more powerful could your app be? Skyflow is a zero-trust data privacy vault delivered as an API. Skyflow's radically simple design lets you collect, secure, and tokenize personal information like card data and payment details. And with built-in features like encrypted data analysis and sharing, anonymization, and advanced governance, your days of choosing between data security and data usability are over. Whether you're just concerned with PCI compliance or need to go further to include CCPA, GDPR, SOC 2, and beyond, Skyflow has you covered. What if you could build fast but not break privacy? With Skyflow, you can. Visit skyflowsecure.com today to learn how.
I think the way you know to pivot is, I think some of it is instinct, which obviously you can't teach, but I think a lot of it is surrounding yourself with a really good network that's not afraid to tell you. I think you're looking at that incorrectly. Some people surround themselves with people who just say, you're amazing, that was great, you're just the best at what you do. I think having someone in your inner circle who isn't afraid to challenge you will help you know when to pivot. And then being open to that challenge, right? And talking through it. And I'm always one of those folks that say, listen, it's okay to agree to disagree. At the end of the day, someone has to be the leader that makes the final decision. But I do like being around people who are okay if I say, listen, we'll do that, but it's okay to disagree on that because I really think we should go this way. And I think just having your voice heard and having someone take a step back, but they're still confident that they feel they're going the right way, that's something you respect as well out of great leaders. But I think that ability to have people in your inner circle that challenge you, I think that helps lead to quicker pivots. I mean, COVID's a great example, right? I was working at a core processor at the time on the card services EFT side. And when COVID hit, all of a sudden, all of our clients went from going to offices every day to being remote. Well, I had worked remote for 20 years at that point. I'd been sitting at my home computer. And so I'm like, I was remote before it was cool. And I remember saying, we have to pivot on how we deliver. We have to do more Teams calls. You have to be on video now because you don't have the luxury of getting to know people by sitting across from them at a table or a lunch or a dinner. And so I was like the first leader to say, all calls going forward, you need your video on, because that's how we're going to get to know and deepen relationships with our clients. And that was a pivot because we could have done the traditional way and just used our cell phones to make phone calls or, send a text message. But that personal relationship was lost when we went remote because people couldn't see you. And someone said, yeah, but my clients don't put their videos on. And I said, that's okay because they still see you. And we're trying to build a relationship. So you being present is important. And eventually what happened, clients started turning their cameras on. And what do you always hear? I'm not really camera ready, but since you have your camera on, I'll turn mine on. So I think that's a great example of a good pivot.
It's interesting you bring that up because even yesterday, I had a call scheduled with a client and we're sitting there and I'm waiting, and then his partner comes on and he and I are sharing video, and then the other gentleman hops on and he's like, I'm so sorry. I couldn't get the video to work, so I just dialed in by my phone. Can you help me figure out how to get the video on?
Yeah.
So I think that is so interesting to see that pivot that has happened.
Yes.
And these aren't new people to the industry. I mean, these are folks that I've worked with for decades and that have made that transition to have that closer one-on-one relationship to be part of it. So I love that perspective and especially that example. Lynn, we've hit on a bunch of things today. One thing that I wanted to talk about that I kind of skipped over, and I was sitting here thinking I wanted to kind of go back to it. When you look at the CheckAlt Lockbox products, can you give me and the audience an example of how it works, what it means, and maybe from your perspective, how CheckAlt's doing it different?
Sure. We focus on 6 levers. So 6 different, I'll call them product offerings. What I've tried to do is kind of bundle the offerings into comprehensive solutions so that our clients can go out to market and solve for prospects that they're trying to, convince to do business with them, or their existing clients. So the traditional lockbox, which most people are familiar with, like you pay your utility bill, it goes to a PO box, somebody behind the scenes is opening and processing that. We do that at 11 different locations throughout the United States. We have people at all 11 that take pride in that process, and then that money shows up in your account. So that's like the traditional, one of the legacy offerings. Then we innovate from there, and that's where that intercept bill payment check that I talked about, we call it catch, where we catch that check from your bill pay service, we turn it into an ACH. Normally that check would have literally went through the US postal system and came to the lockbox and been processed by one of our people. Now we've innovated to say we can catch that bill pay check by working with biller networks and convert that to ACH. The other kind of comprehensive solution for business is businesses want their customers to be able to pay online. We have a generation, my kids are in that generation, that they are, whether it be P2P or online payments with their debit or credit card, or they just set up their ACH to have their account debited every month on a recurring bill. That is a necessity of running a business these days. So we have that online portal as well. We call that online payments. We also have traditional, what people call merchant services, where a small business needs to accept cards. And so whether it be Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, it allows their clients to make their payment at the preference they want, in person, online, whatever that status may be. And then we also have where our clients can actually consume our software. So you might want to be CheckAlt at your business. And so basically you can use our software as a service to basically run your own lockbox, intercept bill payment checks, have an online portal for your businesses. So those 6 levers are kind of our, bread and butter at CheckAlt. But what I think differentiates us is I try to bundle them together into solutions. And like in the financial services segment, I really look at how can I help the financial institution solve? Do they need deposits because their loan growth is going through the roof? Well, I think our treasury management solution can help grow deposits by going out and entering new verticals. We talked about medical. I love medical as a vertical if you're not in it. HOA, great business for financial institutions. Corporate America, small business. So how can we help you gather new clients to help meet your needs? And then also from a financial institution side, on the 6 levers, we do what's called ATM image processing. So if you go to an ATM and deposit a check, we actually convert that check to an image. Back in the good old days when I was a banker, we literally once a day go out to the ATM, pull the checks out of there, go into the branch and manually deposit those checks. There were like shared networks and a lot of different things. Now it's all innovation. So that's sort of in a nutshell what we do. But I like to think what we really do is we help solve problems with creative solutions in probably a very traditional space, but in a way that innovates, partners with fintechs to bring like what I call the value add to the table. Things like the black web, right? The dark web with check fraud, or innovation around maybe risk scoring checks. So those are the kinds of things that are on the table that we keep exploring. And I would say the one thing I've noticed since I've been at CheckAlt is we never say never, and we never stop innovating and working. So it's really refreshing.
We've talked about a lot today. Lynn, is there anything that we've missed, or just a message that you want to share with the audience that really help them understand what's going on and what they can do?
Sure. I think the main message, which someone probably had to say to me when I started here, is checks aren't going anywhere. If you do business with CheckAlt today, we're incredibly grateful for that partnership, and we'd love to know how we can help you grow. And if you don't do business with CheckAlt today, I'd love to chat with you, because I think we have a first-class offering. I think we have an incredible team led by amazing leadership, and I really think we can help transform businesses, whether it be a financial institution or a fintech, or a commercial business or a nonprofit or a doctor's office or HOA. We are willing to partner up with anybody, but really do want to look at a partnership on how we can both make each other successful.
Well, then I appreciate that. I'm excited to see all the things that are going on here at CheckAlt. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to put links to get a hold of Lynn and the rest of the team at CheckAlt down in the description and in the show notes. So you guys will be able to get a hold of that really, really easily. And this has been really exciting to be able to spend a couple days with you and the team to really get to understand what's going on here. And I really appreciate the perspective that everybody's.
Well, the pleasure is all ours, and it really has been a treat to get to know you and spend some time together. And I appreciate you coming to Miami. Could have had warmer weather, but we did okay.
Weather was fantastic. Well, at least it turned out
today. Yes.
But Lynn, thanks so much again, and look forward to seeing what you guys do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time today.
As we wrap up today's episode, I've got one last thing for you. If you're in the trenches fighting fraud and financial crime, you know it's a complex battlefield. That's where Hawk's AI tools for real-time payment screening, AML, transaction monitoring, and dynamic customer risk rating come into play. These aren't just buzzwords, they're game changers designed to make your compliance more effective and less of a headache. Imagine slashing through false positives with precision and giving your compliance strategy the edge it needs. Head on over to GetHawkAI.com to sign up for a demo and discover how their platform can revolutionize how you fight fraud and financial crime.
Has been a production of DD3 Media with all rights reserved. This is provided for informational purposes only. It is not offered or intended to be used as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. We strive to provide accurate and up-to-date information, but will not be responsible for any missing facts or inaccurate information. You comply and understand that you should use any of this information at your own risk. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile financial assets, so research and make your own financial decisions.